All right, we are back with another high ticket sales call role play. We're going to jump into an offer for real estate investing. Ricky is going to be the closer for us. Brian is going to play the prospect. And you know the deal. We're going to jump into the discovery because it's not objection handling, tonality, or follow up that is going to make you a unicorn closer. It is mastering the discovery part of the sales call, going deeper with your prospects, getting to the truth, running through that, and orchestrating a conversation that allows your prospect to make the decision that will take them to the next level. And you mastering your discovery is the thing that, as a closer, that will take you to the next level. So without any further ado, Ricky, kick us off with your opening question.
Absolutely. So, Brian, I know you were on some of our past real estate challenges. So, I'm curious, in your opinion, what is your biggest challenge growing the real estate business right now?
So,
So,
all
So to be honest, I think
right,
it's
basics, your real estate business, not the real estate business. Let's do it again. Let's try and get a masterful discovery.
I'm curious, Brian, in your opinion, what is your biggest challenge growing your real estate business right now?
honestly, I think it's securing funding. So right now, most of my income comes from my real estate agent business, and the problem with that is I only started it like maybe a year ago, and it's 1099, so I don't really have enough proof of income to get traditional funding. So I've been struggling, kind of hitting a, I guess you could say, a wall, so to speak, because I know I want to get into some properties, but I'm not sure how to overcome that challenge given that I don't have 2 years with this career, if that makes sense.
Got it. So, having trouble getting the funding because you're a real estate agent, you've been in 1099 for, you said the past year, correct?
Yeah, yeah. And I've been trying to talk to some normal mortgage brokers, and they're all saying you need 2 years of income before you can get traditional lending. So I'm like, well, I want to do this. I don't understand.
Got it. Okay. And how much are you making? So, forgive me, you said you've been in real estate for the past 1 year. How
Yeah.
much did you make this past 1 year?
I probably, so from real estate, because I have a corporate
All
job
right, my
too.
man. Pause. I want to go a little bit more high level before we go into his income so that you know you're taking the conversation in the right way. So, the first, in my opinion, most important piece is Brian said he's making his money from real estate coaching. He wants
Hmm.
to get into the investing, but he's hit this wall. I think the most important thing is what's going on right now that you no longer want your main or sole source of income to come from your real estate coaching. Why is that more important than getting into how much he's making? Because that first question is going to hold the mirror up to a pain point. What
Yeah.
I'm doing right now isn't working. It's not working at the level I want it to. It's not good enough, whatever he's going to say. I want that broad pain point before I get into specifics. Does that make sense?
It does. Yep.
Because otherwise, you're having a conversation about how much you're making when Brian's not really stepped into the identity of, I'm in pain. I don't want to be making my money from real estate coaching, or I don't want to make all of it from there. So I would start with that so we can really narrow Brian in into you're in a situation that you don't want to be in. Are we agreed on that? Yes. Boom. Now let's get into brass tacks on what your situation is that you don't want to be in. Does that make sense? Because, for example, let me give you a simple example. What if Brian says, yeah, I don't want to be making my income for real estate coaching anymore? And you say, okay, got it. Why is that? And he says, well, it's too many hours. Well, now the data gathering that you're going to focus on is how many hours he's currently
Mm.
working as a real estate coach, not his income. You're going to have to cover the income as well because how many hours someone works being a negative is relative to how much money they're making. If he was working 80 hours a week, but he was making a billion a month, he'd just keep fucking working 80 hours a week. But we're focusing on what his issue is. And it could be time, it could be money, it could be I don't like the clients for coaching. They're a fucking headache. You don't know. And so until you narrow in on what is your pain point right now, you're just guessing what data gathering you even need to go into. Does this make sense, folks? All
A
right.
lot of sense.
Are you okay, Brian?
Yeah, I was saying just one thing. I'm an agent, not a coach. So
Sorry, agent.
all good.
I've said that twice now. All right, let's roll again, Ricky. Whenever you're
All
ready.
right.
So you've hit a wall, Brian, in terms of finding funding for investing into real estate. What specifically now has you looking into real estate investing as opposed to leveling up in terms of your agent business?
Well, I think that
So
so
it was good, but it was a little bit like all over the place. What you said was
Yeah.
right, but it didn't feel like you were pressing him. So I would start the other end. Okay, so right now you're making at least most of or all of your money. We'll get clarity on that here in a minute from real estate agent work. Is that correct? Yes. You've said that you want to get into investing, but you've hit a wall in that. So what I want to understand first, what I'm curious about is why do you want to make that shift in the first place from making your money, making all your money, whatever it is, from real estate agent work into investing? Now, the reason someone wants to make a shift, guys, is to get away from pain. So the fact that he wants to make a shift means the pain point is the reason he wants to make that shift. So let's just start with that. Okay? All right, Ricky, go again.
So you've been an agent for the past year. And you've hit a wall in terms of actually getting the funding for investing. What has you looking into investing right now?
well, I got it.
You're still letting him off the hook with what has you looking into it. No, no, no.
Mm,
You need to understand as a closer, what you're doing right now isn't working. You don't want to do it. It's painful. So let's have a real uncucked conversation. What is going on right now as a real estate agent for you, Brian, that you don't want to focus entirely on that as your source of income and you want to make a shift into real estate investing? Now, there's two things I'm doing differently, Ricky. Number one, I'm removing all of these like softening words and softening language. The other thing I'm doing, which comes with removing the words and having the clarity that we're having a conversation about your pain point, is my tonality changes. The way I'm hammering Brian is let's fucking talk about your pain. And that comes out because I know what I'm doing is I'm trying to collapse him into we don't care about what's irrelevant. We don't care about what's going well. We care about you're in pain. I'm your doctor. Let me find out where you're broken and where you're hurting. So it's an energy. The energy and the intention creates the right words or lack of using the wrong words, and it creates the tonality. You're on this call to get him into pain if there genuinely is pain and focus on holding him in that pain. Does that make sense? It's all
mhm.
about your intention, especially at the start of a call, guys. You kind of got two places in the discovery where your intention is the most important. Front part of the call, we're getting straight into pain. The second part is the ownership, where I'm not fucking around that you just happen to be in a bad situation. It's your fault because of you making the wrong decisions and not making the right decisions. Those two moments in a sales call, your intention has to be on the ball. In the middle, when you're kind of gathering data and you're getting some details and you're getting brass tacks, you can kind of slip a little bit on your intention being so intense. But at the front part and the ownership part of the call, it has to be intense. Doesn't mean I'm going to talk like I'm talking to you, but my intention is I know exactly what I'm trying to look for at this point of the call and at this point of the call. And it's a complete impasse if we don't get it. We're not going any further in the call, which is why I'm not even letting you go further in the role play.
Mm.
Okay. All right.
So is it wrong if I ask what's going on right now that has you looking to do less of the agent business, or is that still kind of working my way around it?
It's the looking into it. It's like he's not
Got
looking
it.
into it. It's you fucking booked a sales call and turned up to a
Okay.
sales call. You're not looking, you're acting, as in
Okay.
you're doing something right now. And this is the thing you got to remember as your belief as a closer is like they're not looking into things, guys. They've taken an action to get on a call with a total freaking stranger and take an hour and a half out of their day. This is not looking around. This is you're in pain and it's enough pain that you're taking action. So I want to
Mm.
keep them on that reality that is you are actually doing something about this. And so we want to stay on that. Okay. All right. Keep going from there. Snake juice. 5 hours sleep, my friends. So we're on adrenaline. All right. Let's keep going.
So Brian, what's going on right now in your real estate agent business that has you doing real estate investing right now?
Well, I got into it, like I said, a year ago. And before that, I was working a corporate job. I thought that the agent stuff would allow me to build the freedom that I left my job for, but I found out this whole real estate agent stuff is a grind. I have to constantly show houses and be available. And I think part of the reason why I got into being an agent was so I could invest. And I realized after my first year, I haven't even been able to do that. So I need to find a way to make that happen because I'm really struggling with having to just manage my schedule as an agent. It's no longer something I want to do a year in. And getting that path out, I do believe it's going to be through investing.
Got it. So you've been grinding, your schedule sounds packed from all the showings that you're doing, and that's led you to do more of the investing. What about investing particularly that makes you think that it's less work, it's not a grind?
Read the pain more than the words. If we were just watching Brian's way of explaining that, what was going on, Ricky?
He's fed up with his time putting like just literally grinding, and I'm sure he's probably working the weekends and showing houses and all of that.
That was way more authentic than what you just did.
Squire
Right?
energy, yeah.
Be human to human. You sound fed up, man. I imagine maybe you're working weekends, you're showing people around houses, you're frustrated. Is that a fair assessment? Oh yeah, man. And then he'll probably say, "Oh yeah, number one, connect with you. Number one, number two, trust you. And number three, without you even asking another question, he'll probably take you even deeper into what's going on, and you didn't even ask a question." The real thing that's going to give you the highest likelihood of moving the conversation forward in the right direction is tuning into the prospect. Sometimes we tune in and we hear a word that the prospect said, and we take that word and turn it into a question. Sometimes we tune into the prospect, and the thing that we garnered from tuning in was their emotional state. And you just ask about their emotional state, or you point out their emotional state, and they'll just carry on talking. Tuning into the prospect is the direct line of sight to the next section of the sales call. Next question, next point, next talking topic, whatever it is. Tune into the prospect. All right. So I would give a recap as far as how he came across when he was saying all of that. To me, and maybe it's just Brian's face right now or his energy. Maybe he's having a bad day. I don't know. But
I'm doing
the
great.
way I read it was like, it feels like that realization, Brian, was kind of like smacking into a brick wall. And he's like, yeah. And I would just shut up and say nothing. And he would probably say why it was that. Yeah, man, I thought I got out of my job to have freedom. And I've just built this prison cell around me where I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And all I'm getting Brian to do is just elaborate and elaborate and elaborate and elaborate. And every time he's elaborating more, he's digging himself into the pain and the frustration of his current situation, which is what we're doing at the front part of the call, burying them in the pain of their current situation. The data that we gather is twofold: one, to understand the situation, but also to get them to elicit the emotions of the situation. And you need to be playing both sides of that at the same time. Do I understand what's going on? If no, or if I've got some missing pieces, I'll ask another question. But also, is the prospect in a state where they need to do something about this? If not, I'll ask more questions to pull out that state of pain. Your questions are just your tool to understand and to pull out the state. They're not your tool to just have a conversation for the sake of it. They're purposeful. Never seen that happen before. All right, let's keep going, Ricky. You got this.
So, Brian, it sounds like you left your job about a year ago looking for more freedom, and now you're stuck to a schedule. You're grinding with all these showings. You sound frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, this is not what I had in mind. I absolutely hated my corporate job before. It was just mundane, boring stuff all day. I had no autonomy over my schedule. I would get called into the office nonstop. And honestly, it feels like with being an agent, I've created that for myself now, the same exact problem. But now it's worse because I have to drive around town to do it. And investing seems to be the way to get out of it. I know it's going to be a lot of work to get this set up, right? Finding properties, acquiring financing, all of that. But I would rather spend time doing that on the front end so that I can create the freedom that I've been lacking from my corporate job and then also being an agent. So yeah, it's been tough. I feel like I just recreated the same thing but made it worse because now I have clients and a fiduciary responsibility to give up my weekends now.
Jeez, man. Okay.
Much better, Ricky. You're connecting with him. You're feeling it. You're being relatable. Brilliant. Let's cut the role play and do not cut the role play per se, but I want to go off and see if you guys understand something. When you want to be a master closer, you have to understand you're playing chess, not playing checkers. So everyone in the chat and Ricky, not Brian, everyone except Brian, what
Damn.
is the biggest thing that we're going to have to get to the bottom of on this role play for Brian to actually take action? Let's see if any of you can see 25 moves ahead where we're going to get stuck. Shiny object. Close with the shiny object. MJ's pretty much got it, but you want to go a little bit deeper on that, MJ. Well done getting that, though. What about the fact that Brian thought that this real estate agent was going to give him the freedom? What is that going to have put in Brian's mind as far as a mental model for making another decision moving forward?
It's easier on the other side of what he's looking to get into, and then it's going to be hard as well.
Yeah, that's true. Fiona's got it, though. He's going to have a doubt in his mind of like, I thought this was going to happen if I did this, and I was wrong. So, what that means that we have to get to the bottom of is his own subconscious consideration that he fucks up another decision.
Yeah.
And if you do not pull that out from the deep recesses of this conversation, he will not buy. So, you have to have that conversation as far as, okay, and the word I wrote down here, or the phrase he said, I had in mind. Well, what I had in mind by getting into real estate agency was that I would have autonomy, I'd have freedom, blah, 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 blah. We have to have a piece of this sales conversation that's about why do you think you had something in mind that didn't turn out the way that you thought it was going to? Well, it was this reason, this reason, this reason. Okay. Where are you at currently with feeling like you could make the right decision moving forward for what would give you the autonomy and would give you the freedom, given that you've had an experience where you made the wrong decision? And unless Brian turns around and says, because of the experience, I've learned my lesson. I've thought about this more. I've really considered my options. He's not going to make a buying decision, plus give you money, because he's going to have this subconscious consideration, which is like, well, I fucked up the decision last time, so I'll probably fuck it up again. And so this is where you're understanding, like, I'm playing chess here. Yes, I've got to do my normal discovery stuff, pull out the pain, understand the data, go through, all the different things, burning problem, strong desire to solve it, et cetera, et cetera. But at a deep level, I can immediately see I'm going to have a conversation with this prospect about how certain are you that the incorrect decision-making process you had before is not something that you're going to get wrong this time. Does this make sense, guys, as far as understanding the mastery level of sales? Well done for Fiona and well done for MJ. You both pretty much got it. Okay. All right. Keep going from there, Ricky. Now, by the way, I'm not saying you have to go into that right now. It's just something that you got to write down on your notes and go, unless Brian feels confident and certain and has clarity and has conviction over this decision, in the context of his last decision, he thought it was going to turn out one way and it didn't. He's not going to buy. A simple way to understand it is if we switch the industry to dating. If you're on a dating offer and a guy says, I married a woman that I thought was the best woman I could ever meet, turned out she was a complete lunatic and completely destroyed my life, and you're trying to sell him, dating services, he's not going to buy any fucking dating services unless you also include the conversation of, what did you learn from that experience that, if it has, makes you feel certain you're not going to make the same mistake again? And unless the prospect is like, I've figured it out, I've learned my lesson, I know what to look for this time, I'm not going to screw that up again, they won't buy from you. Does that make sense? Shifting the industry. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Keep going from wherever you are, Ricky.
So, Brian, you're grinding, your schedule is packed, and now you're looking to get into investing. Is there anything about investing that makes you think it's not going to be as hard as what you're already doing?
Well, I think like I was saying, I think on the
Did he tell me if I'm wrong here, Brian? Did you specifically say the issue was that it was hard?
no,
I didn't think so.
I was more
What was
so
the issue?
about
Lack
I
of
think scaling.
autonomy
Yeah, and
and
autonomy.
and
Okay.
freedom.
Yeah.
But make sure you get the right pain point. Keep
Yep.
going, Ricky.
Could you just repeat
Yeah.
what you said, and I'll
So before that, I don't know. I think I was going off on why I didn't like real estate.
right.
Summary was just the time, and I basically recreated my job, but now it's worse.
Got it. Okay. And so you made this decision to jump into real estate as an agent. It's not what you expected in terms of the grind, the schedule, and you said you don't have that much autonomy. Going into real estate investing, it's going to be hard. What, makes you think that's not going to be that as well?
I know it's going to be difficult, but I think it's a trade-off because with being an agent, it seems like I'm going to constantly have to exchange my time for money. And while I'm going to have to do that as an investor in the beginning to find the first few deals, once I accumulate enough of a portfolio, then it will start to be, I'll have these systems, at least I think, with enough time, where I can be less involved, so to speak. And the only way to do that as an agent seems to be building a team, but then you have to manage people. And not really interested in doing that because, again, that's just a job.
Okay, got it.
So
You've
pause. What I want you to do with the recap is connect the dots. See if you can connect the dots so far.
so you don't want to trade your time for money, yet you're in a position right now where you are trading your time for money. However, going to real estate investing, you're going to have to still make some calls and get leads and all of that. Is
Yep,
there, Mhm.
Let
that's
me give
correct.
let me give you an example. Connecting the dots. We got the dots over on the pain, which is no freedom, no autonomy. We've got the dot of what he's currently doing, which is real estate agency. We've got the dot of why that isn't going to give him the freedom and the autonomy. And then we're going to also, I might do it now, connect the dot of he thought it was going to be one thing, but then he found out it wasn't. So don't copy the words, but I just want you to be able to see as I do this recap, I'm connecting this with this, with this, with this. So it could go something like this. So, oh, and we have the dot of why he can't get into the investing on his own because he's hitting a brick wall for securing funding. So look at the recap, folks. So if I'm understanding correctly, Brian, you're in this position where you're very frustrated and annoyed because you thought that being a real estate agent was going to give you freedom, was going to give you autonomy. But what you've now realized is that you can't get the systems in place with real estate agency that would allow you to be less involved unless you built a team, which it sounds like you've come to the clarity you don't want to do that. And so you feel that investing, real estate investing, would be the way that you could build systems to be less involved, to have freedom, to have autonomy. But the problem is that you've hit this wall with being able to actually secure the funding to be able to do that. Is that everything connected together correctly so far?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You see what I'm doing is I'm recapping. I'm like, did I get this to connect to this, to connect to this, to connect to this? And it does a few things. Means I, as the closer, know that I can move on to my next question, to my next phase of the call. I've not missed anything. It also allows me in my head to start seeing how everything connects so I can kind of see the big picture. It also makes Brian feel like I'm picking up everything that you're putting down and I'm understanding you at a very, very clear 4K resolution. Does that make sense, folks, as an example of like connecting everything that you've got so far? We've got pain point, we've got the emotion, which is the frustration. So the pain point is doesn't have freedom. The emotion is I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed. I thought it was going to be this way. It wasn't. So this is like disappointment and kind of guilt and shame and the emotions. We've connected it to what he's doing right now won't allow him to build systems. There was an alternative option, which was to build a team, but he doesn't want to do that. So we've connected it to that. We've then connected it to with investing, he can build systems, so he can have the freedom. We've then connected it to, but I can't do that because I've hit a brick wall with securing funding. And so we've connected everything together in one long line in the recap. Does that make sense, folks?
Mhm.
Is it typically chronological or like that's too
No, great point. No, not normally. What you
okay?
want to do is you want to always start with the pain. So the
Hmm.
pain and the emotions, so I would never start with, got it. So you can't build systems. and you can't build systems because you've hit a brick wall. I'm never going to start with that. I'm always going to start with, so to make sure I'm still clear, you want freedom, you want autonomy, you don't want to be managing your schedule and struggling with all of that and frustrated. Pain. Start with the pain. But blank, 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 blank. And all of the other things, no, there's not really an order for those things so long as you start with the pain. Okay, so it's never chronological. So always start with the pain. All right, keep going from there, Ricky.
So Brian, if I'm hearing you clearly, it's you don't have freedom and autonomy with what you currently do with your packed schedule and the grind. Sounds like you're really frustrated and you don't want to build a team because that's just more work on your end with the agent side of things, and you're hoping to do more of the investing side of things, build a system.
Key little thing, good so far. Don't say hoping. Because hoping is again making it detached from this, like, oh, I'm hoping to do this. No, wanting. You want to do blank, blank, blank. Not hoping. These little things, guys, make a huge difference. I know it feels like I'm nitpicking, but it's like you're hoping to do blank. Because what you're essentially doing when you say to the prospect you're hoping is you're telling them, I don't think that you're actually serious about this. I, as the closer, you're just hoping to do this. As opposed to you being a leader and pushing the person and holding the mirror up and saying, you want to do blank. Yes? Because they could easily turn around and say, no, well, fine, then we may as well get off the sales call. But I don't want there to be this like middle ground of like, you're hoping to do it. And Brian says, yeah, I'm hoping to do it. Well, why are we on a sales call then if you're just hoping to do it? You either want to or you don't want to do it. Make sense? So hopefully you're enjoying this training. Now, if you're brand new to the channel, you can skip this. But if you've been watching my videos for weeks or months, you've gotten value, you've implemented, you're making more money because of it, the question I have for you is, what are you doing still sitting on the outside? Are you someone who's going to continue to just watch free content when deep down you know being on the inside, being mentored by me directly, being around other unicorn closers is the thing that would take you to the next level? If you think you're getting value from the free content I'm putting out here on YouTube, what do you think happens inside the mastermind? So if you know you're ready, if you're at that point, you've seen what you needed to see, click the link below this video, jump inside. I'll see you there. Now back to the training. Okay? All right, keep going.
So Brian, if I'm hearing you clearly, you don't have the freedom right now. You don't have the autonomy, and sounds like you're really frustrated with the grind, the schedule, and you don't want to build a team being an agent, and you want to get into real estate investing so that you do have the freedom, you do have the autonomy. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Good. Keep going. Connect it to what's keeping him from doing that, which is not able to build systems and then the wall of being able to get into investing. Connect it to those final two, roadblocks. But everything up until there was good.
And now you want to get into real estate investing and build systems, build a team. And the challenge is that you've hit a wall getting funding and knowing how to do it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Got it. Okay. And what have you done to actually get funding so far?
So I talked with
Good. So the topic you're going to go into, which is fine, there's a few you could go into, but you're going to go into the wall. But I can see the way you phrased it. It's not so much, what are you doing right now or what have you been doing? It's talk about the wall. So use the packaging or the framing of he's in this wall. It's not just what are you doing to get investing and, what have you been doing? It's so you're at a wall with real estate investing and getting the funding to do that. What exactly are you at a wall with when it comes to doing that? And now the packaging of the question is about pain and an impasse and an inability to get there. It's all about the packaging of the questions. Does that make sense? Okay. And we're using the prospect's language for the packaging.
And now you've hit a wall in terms of actually getting the funding, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Like I was saying, I tried talking to some.
Pause. Fantastic, Brian, because that's very realistic. The other reason why you want to phrase it their way, many times you don't even have to ask a question. They'll just fucking tell you the next thing anyway because you packaged it the right way. Very realistic, Brian. So just keep going from there.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I mean, I talked to these mortgage brokers, but because I've only had 1 year as a real estate agent, they're like, oh, you can't, we can't really verify your income because you've only been in that career for a year. So I've tried all sorts of different traditional financing. I've talked to mortgage brokers, I've gone directly to banks, and then I'm left with nothing. They won't even like start the pre-approval process for me to get a loan. And I don't even know how to do, I don't even know what it would be called, non-traditional financing. I don't even know how to do that. Because I know there's a bunch of like shisty people out there. So I don't trust myself to go find that on my own. So that's where I'm at. It's this wall of like I know I need to do investing to get out of the basically prison that I've created in real estate, but I don't actually have the ability to go out and get financing because I have no clue what I'm doing. I only know how to do traditional mortgage loans.
Huh, interesting. Okay. How many mortgage brokers or lenders have you spoken with in the past 1 year to actually get financing?
Such a good question. Very good. So we're getting specifics and we're going to make him pull out the pain. Two changes. Instead of how many people have you spoken to, how many people have you spoken to and hit the wall? So
Mm,
we're tagging it into the pain. And then the second thing, yes, we could later on get the year, but right now I want to keep the timeline shorter. In the last 30 days, how many, I forget the technical wording here, real estate brokers have you spoken to try and get funding? And yet again, you've hit a wall. Oh, in the last 30 days, it was 10 different people. Because it's in a shorter timeline, the pain will be stronger than if
Yeah.
it's like in the last year. Then the pain is going to be diluted across a year. And I specifically want to talk about hitting the wall with them. Not just how many did you talk to? Well, I talked to 20 people. Okay, fine. Whereas how many people did you talk to and hit a wall with? Oh, I spoke to 15 people and I hit a wall with all 15. Jesus, man. Does that make sense? Just the little
it
nuances.
does. It
Okay.
does. I had a question actually. So the reason I asked that was I also wanted to know whether he actually was talking to people and putting the work in, right? Because some people say, I'll speak to,
I agree.
people, and it
That's
could be
why I
one
like your
person.
question. I love the question because you're getting him to actually tell you, but you should still get that same information, even if you add it, even if
I
you
see.
add to the end of it, hit the wall. Because if he's like, oh, loads of people, then you're doing exactly what you're saying, which is like, well, how many exactly in the last week did you speak to? Oh, I don't know, like one. Interesting. What about in the last month? Oh, like two. Now you've pulled out what you're considering, which is maybe he's not really put in much work.
Mm.
So you're on the right lines of thinking, but I would still tie it into the pain of hitting the wall. Okay. All right. Keep going.
Yep. So Brian, how many lenders and brokers have you spoken with specifically and hit a brick wall
Timeline.
Oh,
Timeline.
oh yeah.
in the past 30 days?
Because I'm involved in a networking group, I know a lot, and I've pretty much I exhausted my entire network like months ago. So I went out calling random brokers and getting introduced. I think I talked to like I think it was 11 this last month, and the best outcome that I had was I had a few that were saying, "Oh, we could look at your bank statements and then qualify you based off of that," but the interest rate was ridiculous, and they also said that it wouldn't really work with a second property because I already have a primary house. So it's just nothing. Like I've 10, 11 in this last month, which was really difficult to even find that many.
Okay. And what about the month prior?
I think that month was, yeah, it was about the same. I think it was about 10,
Okay. So you've
something like
spoken
that.
to 21 lenders and brokers, and all of them have basically said no, and that's where you're hitting that brick wall now.
Yeah, or they're just offering like quite frankly shitty financing that I don't want to take. Or they're like, "Oh, you can do this on a primary house, but you can't do it for an investment property." I'm like, "Well, that's great. Useless."
Okay.
So,
No, notice the use of Brian's language. Very realistic prospect. Oh, that's useless. At this point, because of the way he's describing it, I'm going to shift from data gathering and shift back into pain. I'm noticing, you said useless, and obviously, this is your single pathway to getting the freedom that you want and to have, the autonomy you want. Hitting a brick wall with 21 people in the last 60 days and feeling like this whole process is just useless. I'm curious, Brian, how are you holding up? Oh, I'm so notice what I'm doing. I'm shifting out of data gathering a little bit and bringing back the pain. And I'm only doing that because I'm watching the way Brian's explaining this. And I'm like, what's my better move here? To do another data gathering question or to pull on the heartstrings of the pain?
Mm.
Based on the way he was describing it, there's more juice in pulling on the pain. Okay. Because think of it from his point of view. If you step into his shoes, he knows what he needs to do to get the freedom that he wants, and he's hitting a brick wall. Like, how frustrating must that be? Like, to know what you need and to be calling people and having the conversations and being told no, 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 over and over and over and over again. That would beat up anyone. So be a human and talk about that. I could even say it like that. You've called, 21 brokers in the last 60 days. They've all turned you down and said no. And this is the thing that you want to do so you can have freedom. How has that made you feel over the last 60 days, Brian? It's made me feel like I should just give up. Okay. Are you willing to do that? Fuck no. Why not? Because then I'll never get the freedom I want. Okay. So have you gotten to the point where you've realized trying to get the lending the way you've been doing it, you calling up with your lack of experience and being told no, is just a dead end? Yes. Okay. What road are you going to take now? Well, now that's why I'm on the call with you. I want help. I want outside assistance so I can actually get past this brick wall. Notice how we're now shifting it into a sale, which is selling him the fact that he needs help. All just coming off the back of pulling on the real pain. Okay. All right. You're doing good, Ricky. Keep going.
Man, Brian, you've been talking to 21 brokers for the past 60 days and they've all said no. How's that been going? How's that make you feel?
Pause before you say, Brian. That was a completely different version of you, Ricky. So much better. Like, it felt like you're actually a fucking human being now, like feeling his pain. There was intensity in your voice. There was emotion in your voice. Do more of that on your sales calls. You'll close a lot more deals. Good stuff.
I'll answer it. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's tough. I mean, I'm like losing hope that this is even possible. And it's making me think like, well, shit, do I just have to stay as a realtor until I can save enough money to just buy something all cash if I can't get financing? And then, I started coming across some of y'all's content, right? I attended the webinar and I've been trying to research how to get into creative financing. But again, I never really did that in the last year as an agent. So it's all so new to me and I'm a little intimidated by it. And that's why I booked this call and I'm definitely looking for some help in order to secure some sort of creative financing and get this together because I'm not seeing a path to do that with these traditional brokers. Otherwise, I'm just gonna have to save up cash, and that's gonna take way too long.
Mm-hmm.
All right, pause. Very important. We're going to go on a little training side tangent because otherwise you'll all get confused.
Let's go.
So, whiteboard, if that pulls up. Yep. All right. So, we've seen the shift there with Ricky. There's 3 shifts that you need to understand as a salesperson to be able to close anybody. Okay. Most of you get stuck on 1 or 2. Okay. So, this is going left to right. You got shift number 1, shift number 2, shift number 3. You're not going to close deals here. You're not going to close deals. You're only going to close deals here. Okay. So, what are the shifts? Not being a real fucking human being. Okay. If you're not actually being a real human being, which is what Ricky was doing up until the last 30 seconds, you will not close a deal. Okay. I then read Jay's comment in the chat, which is why I've decided to go on this little side tangent. When you make that shift that Ricky just did from there, fantastic. You're halfway there. You've made the shift into phase number 2, which is where you are now able to be a real human being, or as we would call, empathize with the human being. However, you are never, ever, ever going to close a deal if you get stuck there. Okay, you're never going to close a deal if you're just not being a human being. Neither are you ever going to close a deal if you empathize. Only empathize, should I say. Because after you've empathized and you've connected and you maintain that throughout the whole sales call, you have to move into phase 3, which is challenging / getting to the truth. And by truth, I'm no longer talking about the truth of the pain. I'm talking about the truth as far as, yes, Brian, you're in a shit situation. It sucks, whatnot. I empathize with you. I feel your pain. I understand your pain. We're both on the same side of the table. You can feel I get it. We're connected. But I'm not now just going to, rub your back and give you tissues to cry your eyes out. We now actually have to get into Why isn't it working? Why are you still trying something that's not working? How much longer are you going to keep trying something that's not working? How important is it for you that you actually fix this? Are you going to fix it right now? Are you going to fix it with us? Blah, 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 blah. All of these tie down questions that bring it from, yes, I've got my arm around you. I feel your pain. I understand it. I'm empathizing with you. I'm connecting with you, to it's nobody's fault but your own. You're the one that's decided to do this way, not get results. And are you going to continue to do things in a way that's not going to get results? So once you've gone through this first transition here to empathizing, which let's say, 50% of closers are here, the next 40 to 45% of closers are here. So that's cumulatively, we've got 90 to 95%. Only the final 5% of closers get into this final bit here, which is where you've actually been a human being, you've actually empathized with the person, but now you're leading the person. You have to step into that final leadership position. If you get stuck at phase 2 and you're just empathizing, you won't close people, because now you're both on the same side of the table, looking at each other about how bad Brian's situation is, but you're just sat there empathizing about it, as opposed to, okay, what are you going to do about it? You're going to do something. You're going to do something now. Does this make sense, guys? Really important that you get this, because I know a lot of you move from being human, which was your first problem. You then move into empathizing, and you're caring about the prospect. But the highest level of empathizing, guys, and this is what you really need to understand philosophically, the highest level of empathy is challenging someone to stop fucking sitting around and doing nothing. That's actual real empathy. I care about you enough that I'm not going to let you do nothing. If I let you get off this call and not take action, if it's actually in your best interest, I didn't really care about you. If you really care about someone that is obese and they've been told they're on the verge of a heart attack, and you sit with them about how upset they are and how frustrated they are with their body image and how they've got no energy and whatever, and you empathize with them, and then they say, oh, I'm just going to eat this chocolate bar, and you actually allow them to put that chocolate bar in their mouth, then you didn't care about them. You have to be the person that stands up to people. And you're not standing up to them against them. You're standing up against the lower version of themselves, the demonic version of themselves that keeps making excuses, lying to themselves, rationalizing to themselves, playing small. And you are standing up to that version of themselves and saying, not anymore. Enough with that. You need to level up. You need to get better. You need to go to the next level. And it's only you that can do it. You are the vessel. You are the catalyst for someone to go to that next level. Does this make sense?
100%.
All right, let's jump back into the role play.
So Brian, you spoke with 21 brokers in the past 60 days. Like, how are you feeling after getting so many no's?
I mean, I'm starting to lose hope, Ricky, because I know that this is the path out, is going to be buying property, but after talking to all these brokers, and the best thing that they can give is a super high interest loan with so much money down. I mean, it's ridiculous. I've kind of reached a point where I either have to save up enough cash to basically buy something free and clear, which that's going to take probably like 3 or 4 years. I don't want to do that just to get one, or I have to do creative financing. And that's why I'm on this call now. I don't know how to do that. And I know that that's going to be the fastest path to get out of this and to actually get that freedom.
Yeah, for sure. You said losing hope in what specific way?
Well, because
Who's this? This is brilliant, Ricky. Keep going. This is fantastic.
So good. Well, losing hope because I've spent, I mean, literally hours, not just on the phone with these brokers, but finding them. Because I told you I already like exhausted my entire network that I've built. And then the last like 3 or 4 months was me just going to these, just such a waste of time networking events for realtors and brokers. And you know how it goes. Most of them are just trying to get business from me. And I'm like, hey, how do I get a loan for a house without putting this much down? It's an investment property. And they're just, none of them can give me anything. So I got to figure out the creative financing stuff, or basically be a realtor for another 4 years. And I don't want to do that. It sucks.
Okay, pause. This is for Ricky specifically, but I want you to all see the coaching that I'm about to give Ricky. And it's very creative. I've never done this before. It might not work, but I just want you to see what you need to be tuning into. You got a piece of paper in front of you, Ricky,
Hmm.
a clean sheet of paper, not the one that you've been taking notes so far. Okay, this
Yeah,
is
I do.
connected to something akin to the pre-call checklist. The version of you that you've just been for the last two questions, I want you to go with whatever initially comes up to you. You don't have to show us. You're not going to show us. I want you to either draw a little symbol or a word that is a representation of the identity that you just brought for the last 30 seconds. It could be a fucking little picture of a fish, could be a house, could be the Eiffel Tower, could be a word, whatever it is. I want you to write that down. You're not going to show us. And before every single call, you're going to look at that symbol, whether it's a word or a picture, and you're going to remember how you've just been for the last two questions, and it's going to snap you into that identity. This is the concept of the pre-call checklist, guys. There is a version of you that is in there. We just saw it pop out from fucking nowhere from Ricky. It's inside all of you guys. I don't have to teach you shit to actually have that version of you. You have to just let go of all the things that are blocking you. And when you find that version of you guys, your single biggest job is to identify it, to create like breadcrumbs, like if you know the story of Hansel and Gretel, like we found the house, how do we get back to the house? Create the breadcrumbs and then be able to look at that shit every single day before every single call and choose I'm going to be that version of me again. If you've been it once, why can't you be it every time? Okay? You done it, Ricky?
I did. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, keep going in the role play. I just didn't want to miss that.
I completely forgot what you said.
I was talking about why I was losing hope, right?
Yep.
Going through the whole process, having to network, waste a bunch of time, and I need to do creative financing, blah, blah, blah.
How much longer do you want to continue being a broker for for the past 1 year, just grinding away, getting all these no's from the brokers that you're talking to, losing hope?
Not anymore. That's why I'm on this call, right? I've already wasted
It was a
hour.
decent it was a decent question, but I don't think it was the most powerful you could have given. I think maybe a more powerful angle would have been something like, how much hope have you got left?
Mm.
Because then it's like we're pulling out real consequence, which is, Ricky, this is my last shot. Okay. Given that it's your last, and then you connect it to the thing he wants, given that it's your last shot to the freedom that you truly want and deserve, what are you going to do right now to make sure that your last shot has the highest likelihood of being successful? It's probably better than the way you went. Now, I like what you were doing is you're trying to tie it down to something. That's beautiful. But I would probably go more to the angle of let's get the data on, okay, how much hope have you actually got left? Not much. If you were to quantify it, let's say 10 was max hope. You had everything you needed and you were calling all these brokers thinking I'm going to get funding, financing. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put yourself now? Oh, like 0.5? Wow. Given that you're at the last, bastion of hope for you, and what you've been doing clearly isn't working, probably is never going to work. What shift do you need to make right now today so that that hope doesn't disappear and your freedom disappear with it forever? Notice how I'm connecting it into leadership, into like, what do you want? What's the likelihood you get it? Not very high. Let's have a real conversation about that. What do you need to do? And my tonality's shifted. I'm much more somber, slowing down. And this is that third and final phase on the three circles. We're now bringing it into, okay, we're serious now. You're fucked. You've got barely any hope left. You can't risk losing your hope, or you're never going to get what you want. Thumbs up. All right, good stuff, Ricky. Crushing it. Keep going.
So Brian, you're losing hope, and you've exhausted your network and gotten so many no's, and you said you have to do this creative finance. How much hope do you have left to do this?
Not much, unless, I mean, literally like nothing, unless I figure out the creative financing stuff. I have zero hope in what I'm doing right now, but based off what I've seen from you guys, I know, and I've met people, I know it's possible. So I definitely have a lot of hope once I figure that part out, that, I could potentially leave this real estate agent business in the next year if I can get the creative financing figured out.
Okay. And so what do you want to do today to figure the creative financing out once and for all?
I need to get help. I think it's
Y-
very clear. Like I've done enough research on my own in the last probably last 2 weeks after getting my last rejection from a broker. I'm like, I'm so done playing this game. I've researched a lot. I know that I just need to get help. I need somebody who's already done that, who's taught other people. And that's why I'm on this call today.
So beautiful. We pretty much tied him down to I need to do something. What I need to do is get outside help. I need to get that outside help now. So now at this point, if I was a closer, I'm looking at, where have I got some gaps in the sales call? Like, is there any things I'm kind of like missing, like the glue to piece everything together? There's a couple of things. One piece that's missing is like, yes, he needs to get help. Yes, he needs to get help now. But what specifically has he seen with us that makes him feel like
Mm-hmm.
we're the people that he wants help with? He said, I've seen enough from you to realize there's a solution, but he didn't tell us what did he see. So I want to bury him a little bit deeper in why us. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, as I'm hearing Brian get tied down and tied down and tied down, I'm like, he's not going to buy. Even though we covered some pain at the beginning of the call, we've kind of lost the pain, like the emotion of the pain. Like he's now talking about, I need to do something and commitment, but it's less about the consequence of him doing something. And so another thing that I'd want to backfill the call, which means because it's scriptless, there's kind of an order to things, but there's also, we're having a real conversation, we keep going. And then you're like, no, I kind of missed a few things. I'll just get those things and talk about them now. The other thing that I want to talk about is the bigger pain points and picture of his life as far as running out of hope, managing a schedule, struggling with his day to day, not having the freedom. What's actually going on with this guy? Like, are you putting on weight? Are you having issues with your wife? Are you married? Do you have kids? You know, your day to day happiness. Like, I want to pull out a little bit more of the broader picture of his current exhaustion. Does that make sense, Ricky?
hmm
So off the top of my head, those are the two biggest things that I'm like, we definitely need to cover those to absolutely close this guy.
hmm
Okay. So as you're going through the discovery, think of that mental model next time, guys, which is I did what I needed at the front of the call. For the middle of the call, I've just followed the bouncy ball and I've been tuned in. I've been listening to the prospect. I've been going into things. Now, as I'm getting to the point of, let's call it 2/3 of the way through the discovery, what my mind usually shifts to is backfilling, which is like, if it wasn't obviously a place to pull the prospect out of the discovery and close them, why not? Like, what have I missed along the way that we need to kind of backfill? Now, sometimes you've seen me close, guys, when I do the close me role play, and there is no backfilling. Like we've just gone from the opening to the pain, we've gone deeper into the pain, we've got the logic, we've got the ownership, and we've just gone through everything in a very logical order. And I'm like, I've got to pull this guy out of the discovery now. Like we've done everything we need. We just got there through the course of time. But sometimes that doesn't happen because it's scriptless. And so when it's scriptless, you might think actually we still need a few other nuggets. And so I'm just going to go back into those nuggets. Does that make sense?
hmm
Okay. All right, Ricky, keep going from there.
So you mentioned you have to do this creative financing, and this is what you see. What specifically about the webinar and Andrew and Leo attracted you and said, that's who I want to learn from?
Well, since I'd say probably about a month ago, I started watching.
I would be more specific in the wording. What was it that you saw from blank 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 that makes you feel like we're the person you want to learn from to get through the brick wall that you've been struggling to get, that you haven't got through for the last
Mm,
21 phone calls over the last 60 days? Connect it more to the struggle, the pain, the inability to get through it. And then now we're sandwiching. We've got a solution to your very specific inability to solve that solution. Does that make sense? So
hmm
just sandwich it all together a little bit more.
So, Brian, what specifically about the webinar and Andrew and Leo attracted you to actually specifically attracted you to, feel like we're the ones to help you learn the creative financing so you don't hit this brick wall and you're not getting any more no's?
It's
Well,
in this case, it's less about don't hit the brick wall, and it's more like smash the brick wall. Like get through the brick wall, as opposed to
mhm.
don't hit the brick wall. Like, yeah, you could say they just don't hit a wall. I prefer a little bit more explosive language because we're really like starting to bolster up the prospect now. We've done some bringing him down into the pain. We now want to bring him up into you've hit a brick wall. You've hit it 21 times in the last 60 days. What was it about our program that makes you feel we can be the ones to get you to smash through that wall, get to the other side, get the financing you need so that you can become a real estate investor with freedom, with autonomy, and live the life that you want to live. Notice the way I'm packaging the language is so much more leadership based than just logically, a salesperson's question. You're really starting to lead someone with your language. Make sense? Okay. The other thing to consider, and it's not essential, but sometimes our questions can get a little bit long because we start asking the question, which means who, what, where, when, how, why is the first word that comes out our mouth. And then we're asking the question and we're adding on all of the context, all of the context, all of the context, all of the context, and then finishing with a question mark. And it's like, fuck me, that question was long. Sometimes it's better to just put the context at the front and then ask the question at the end. So, given that you've hit a brick wall 21 times in the last 60 days, you haven't been able to get through that. That's keeping you from having the freedom you want, the autonomy you want as a real estate investor. What is it that you saw from us that makes you feel we can get you to smash through that brick wall once and for all? Notice how by putting the context at the front, it makes the question just more compact at the end. But I still need the context. Does that make sense? Okay. You need more sleep, Ricky. All right, keep going.
So Brian, given that you've hit a brick wall 21 times, you've gotten no 21 times from these brokers, and you don't have the freedom, you don't have the autonomy that you really want. What is it specifically about us that you think we can get you to where you want to go with freedom and breaking through that brick wall?
10 out of 10, Ricky. Very good.
Well, after exhausting my network a few months ago, I started watching your guys' content, and I've seen enough to know. I've seen all the testimonials of people who have been in very similar situations that have built a life that they want, and have learned creative financing from zero. So I know you guys are going to be the ones to help with that. I have no doubts in my mind.
Okay, you've been consuming our content for the past 1 month. What
Mhm.
was there anything in particular that happened that you're like, I need to do this now? Is there something that happened?
Good question, but he didn't actually answer your question. He said, I know, but what you asked him
How do you
is,
know?
why do you know? How do you know?
Mm,
So he didn't actually answer the question. Now that's a trick that a lot of
Mhm.
closers fall for. They're like, the person responded with certainty, yeah, but they didn't respond with facts. You need them to give you the facts as well as the certainty. Okay. Before we jump back into that, a little lesson for all of you guys. When Ricky delivered that previous question, one thing I want you to know is that you, as the closer, are creating certainty and conviction in the prospect based on your certainty and your conviction in how you word things and the tonality and the intensity and the choice
Mhm.
of wording. The way Ricky was delivering that compared to how Ricky was 50 minutes ago is totally fucking different. And that puts and injects certainty into the prospect. However, this is very important. You do not inject certainty into the prospect by manipulating them and telling them, we can definitely help you. Absolutely. And you've got, assertive wording, assertive tonality. You can't do that because then it's your words and your tonality that's being projected onto the prospect as opposed to your certainty and words being put into the prospect and then asking the prospect to come up and meet you where you're at. The difference is that you're asking what you need to ask as a question rather than telling the prospect, but the wording of your question and the tonality of your question is telling them. I'm telling you with my certainty. I'm telling you with the phrasing I use, but I'm still asking you as a question. In other words, I'm going to give you everything I can give you, but you have to agree and action what I'm giving you as a response to my question.
Mm.
Does this make sense? It's very subtle, the difference. It's not, oh, yeah, we can absolutely help you. You need to do this right now. You're stuck in a terrible situation. Trust me, buy from us, buy right now. That's very certain language, very certain tonality. But if I shift all of that upside down into a question, but keep the same intensity, keep the same intention, I'm now connecting my conviction and certainty as a closer with you having to meet me in the middle with your certainty and conviction by answering my question. Does that make sense? Very
Mhm.
nuanced. Okay. All right. Keep going from there.
Can you repeat what you said, Brian? I don't remember.
What was the last question? It was something about,
So
oh,
basically
Why?
what you said is I watched something in the webinar and
yep.
I know you're the people to help me. But it's
Yep.
like, okay, cool. What exactly gives you that absolute knowingness?
Hmm.
Oh, it was this, this, and this. Now we've tied him down to facts and the emotion.
That's
Okay.
right.
So I want you to just execute that, Ricky.
So, Brian, you said you know we're the ones you've been on our webinar for the past month and consuming our content. What makes you so certain that we are the ones to actually mentor you and guide you to where you want to go?
So, sorry, before you answer, that's an exact example of what I just described, which is Ricky is certain. Ricky's, buying into what Brian says, but then there's also this skepticism and detachment of like, you have to tell me why you're certain. I'm
Yep.
not just going to believe you that you're certain. And
Hmm.
that's where the leadership dynamic really comes in is I have absolute certainty and conviction, but you've got to convince me. Otherwise, we're not going any further in this call. And that's when you shift the frame control of a sales call, where the prospect feels like they owe you one. Like they have to convince you that they're certain because they get this feeling of like, shit, this person's not even going to let me in the program unless I convince them. They're not going to tell me the pitch. They're not going to offer me to join. And that's where you're really masterfully being a puppet master of frame control. Okay. So perfect execution, Ricky.
Yeah. So I think, well, the reason why I'm so certain that you guys can help was simply in the content that I've seen. I can see how many examples of people that you've actually helped. And I know those people can do it. There's no reason why I can't. Right. So it was just watching enough of the content and specifically how it's helped people who may have not known anything. That's what's given me the certainty after, I mean, literally a month of watching everything. I mean, I have no doubt.
Okay. I know you mentioned you were losing hope previously. It was at zero, but you have seen these folks do it as well. Are you certain that you can do it yourself, given that you've seen all of these other investors do the same?
Yeah, 100%. The only missing piece I have, and the reason why I don't have any hope right now is because I don't know what I'm doing. And I know that I can solve that by aligning myself with you guys, learning that blueprint, and then simply executing on it.
Okay, got it. And how committed are you to actually putting in the time, the energy, and the work? Because I know you mentioned that your schedule's packed right now. You're grinding all the time. It's going to be a grind. It's not going to be easy.
This is masterful, guys. And it's masterful because Ricky was like, hmm, let me think if there's anything else that I should probably ask
That was
ethically
awesome.
that's really important. And he just sat there thinking it through. And it was so powerful. Brian was sat there like, I'm like almost like being interviewed that like I'm passing
That
the bar to enter into this program. That was beautiful, Ricky. If you're
was
ever
perfect.
unsure, just sit there like you did and just think it through. Be like, okay, I'm clear on this, I'm clear on that, clear on that. Oh, he did actually mention something else about being super busy. Maybe I should ask about that. It was so powerful, guys, because one of the weakest things that you see with closers is they can't sit for more than 2 seconds without having to come up with another question. And that's insecurity.
That was
When you're
awesome.
truly secure, you're like, the only thing I'm trying to do on this call is follow the process. And sometimes I need a few minutes to think through my process, and that's perfectly fine. That was masterful, Ricky. Fantastic. Keep going from there.
Yeah. So that's a good point. That was actually one of the concerns I had was, well, if I've got this super busy schedule right now with, let's say like right now I have 5 active buyers that I'm showing houses and 3 listings. So I am trying to figure out how the hell am I going to find the time for that. But at this point, Ricky, just to be totally candid with you, I'm willing to refer some of these clients out because I don't want to do this anymore. So if what you guys do can get me to a place where I can get a deal. I mean, realistic. I do real estate, let's say in like 3 or 4 months, then I'm willing to cut back on my clients, not take any new ones until I get this off the ground.
Okay. How many hours right now are you putting towards the real estate agent business right now?
So there was something more important in there, Ricky. Do you know what it was that you
Him
have to
referring
tackle?
him referring his clients out and the
Nope.
money.
Nope. There was a little slip up on Brian's end. Well done, Fady. Brian said, if you can get me blank, blank, blank,
Mm-hmm.
blank, blank. Well, if
Mm,
there's any ifs and buts, he's not going to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to tell you what to say. Focus on that and figure out what you need to say next based on that being the missing piece there.
so Brian, you mentioned you could refer back some clients to other agents, but I heard a little bit of doubt of getting a first deal in the first 3 to 4 months. Are you confident you can do that on your own? Are you confident you can get a deal in the first 3 to 4 months?
It was good, but I wouldn't infuse that he actually was doubtful. What's
Mm,
interesting is that as humans, we get into patterns and we say things more out of habit rather than we actually believe that. And so I wouldn't tell Brian that he actually has doubt because maybe he doesn't. And I'll tell you right now, he probably doesn't because he's on a
mhm.
sales call and he booked in a sales call. It's just a pattern of him using the type of wording that's allowed him to feel what's the phrasing? It's like nothing else that he's doing in this area of his life is working out, and so his reality is telling him nothing's working out the way you want it to as far as moving into real estate investing. So he has to use language that represents his reality, which is if and possibly and maybe and could do, might do, whatever. But we're now having a real conversation about the fact that he is certain, because he just said it a minute ago, that you guys can get him what he needs. But then he fell back into a pattern of language that was the old version of him that he's been up until now. You need to hold him back to that new version that you've just pulled out of him, Ricky, for the last 20 minutes. So you got to, when people like accidentally slip back, you've got to push them back up again. It's like the fat person that, has told you they need to lose weight and they're telling you, I can do this. I can eat the salads. I can eat the protein. I can do the walking. And then like a few days later, they say something like, well, I'll go to the gym today. Like if I can, you'd be like, hang on a minute. Can you go to the gym? Oh, yes, I can. And that was just like a little slip up of the old version of them coming out. And you have to hold them against that. Does that make sense? I
Mhm.
wouldn't buy into like he actually has doubt.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good stuff, Ricky.
So Brian, you said if you can get a deal in the first 3 to 4 months, do you?
Careful with the language. He said, if you. So
Mm,
as in, Brian said, if you, as in your company, Ricky, can get me a deal. So then you have to say it back how he said it. So you said, if we can get you a deal.
mhm,
Don't mess up the who, what's the, like first person or third person, who we're talking
mhm.
about.
So Brian, you said that if we can get you your first deal in your first 3 to 4 months, you're willing to cut back the buyers that you're working with right now. Do you actually believe we can get you 3 to 4? We can get you your first deal in the first 3 to 4 months
Perfect. But there's going to be one little bit of conditionality to it that you should probably include in the question. What would it be?
if you put the work in and show up.
Yeah. Do you actually believe that we can get you a deal in the next, forget the timeline, 30 to 90 days, if you do what you need to do inside the program that you've seen our other clients get results on the webinar? So now we're sandwiching it all together, which is you said if we can get you it, well, I'm going to ask you what do you believe about that, but I'm also going to tie it into if you do the things that you need to do. And I can also tie it into that you just told me 2 questions ago, you've watched the webinar and seen a bunch of other people get the result that you want. So if we sandwich it all together, this is the absolute opposite of manipulation, guys, because manipulation is you take something that the prospect never said and you put it into a conversation and make it seem like they said that or they believe that or whatever. That's manipulation. This is, I'm just going to take 3 things that you've already told me and sandwich them together and remind you of those things that you've already told me. You've already told me, yes, we can help you. You've already told me you need to do this. And you've already told me that you've seen other clients of ours do what you say you want to do. So I'm just going to stack those things together and ask you as a question, if do you believe that we can get you what you want if you do what you need to do that you've seen other people do? Yes or no? And it's just sandwiched with the truth. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very good, Ricky. Keep going.
So Brian, you mentioned that if we can get you your first deal in the first 3 to 4 months, and you've already seen all of our clients, our investors do what you want to do you actually believe we can get you that first deal in the first 3 to 4 months if you show up, put the work in, and do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah, 100%. I think maybe the first week or two, I might have to put in less time, at least in the investing, just to get started as I figure out what I need to cut back on in my current business. But absolutely, I'm not at a point where I want to delay this anymore and risk, me continuing to run my business the way it is, which means putting off investing for another year or two. I'm sick and tired of it. That's like I already tried real estate agency to get out of this, and I just made the problem worse. So I'll do what it
Okay.
takes.
Okay.
You're doing fantastic, Ricky. So Ben's put something in the chat. Interesting point here. Ben wants to tie him down more. Ben wants to tie him down by saying, you sounded pretty certain there. What makes it a 100% for you? That's actually a weaker version of a tie down that I would recommend. I would go the opposite direction. Okay, so you said just now, yes, we can get you the result you want if you do what you need to do that you've seen other people do. Is there any particular reason that you said if a moment ago? I'm going to pull back out to why are you infusing doubt into yourself? Because that's the real thing that's going to prevent Brian stepping up and taking action at the end of the call. He will probably say something like, you know what, I'm just still a bit nervous. This is where, without even trying, you're pre-handling objections, guys. But I didn't know that that's going to be an objection. I'm just looking at it from a high level sales point of view, which is Brian said something that he didn't actually believe. I have an ethical fiduciary duty to understand why someone is saying something that they don't actually believe. Why are you saying something you don't believe? You just told me you do believe that we can help you, but you also just said if a minute ago. What's going on there? Oh, I think it's this. Well, now you're just going to cover whatever the objection was going to be, and you just handle it now, and you don't have to handle it at the end of the call. Whereas what Ben was doing was ignoring the contradiction and trying to take it in the direction as a closer that you want it to go in, which the hiccup is that you had an intention that was for your best interest. If your intention as a salesperson is your best interest, you will always drop the ball and miss things that would have allowed you to close the deal. If your only intention is to get to the fucking truth, whether it's for your best interest or not, that philosophy will always take you where you need to go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. 100% Ben. Detached. Be more detached. Focus on what's going on rather than what you want to be going on. Oh, I want this to close a deal, so let me triple tie the guy down. Well, yeah, but you missed what's actually going on, which is Brian said something that contradicted what he actually believes. Why did he do that? I'm curious. And then you'll get what really is going on, and it will just naturally flow. You'll cover that, and you'll close the deal. Okay? You're doing fantastic, Ricky. Keep going.
So Brian, I noticed you were very certain in what you just said that you believe we can get you that first deal in the next 3 to 4 months. But I noticed you also said if a few moments ago. Is there a particular reason?
Well, I guess, with real estate markets unpredictable, right? Things can happen that are out of all of our
Mhm.
control. But I also realize even if it's not 3 or 4 months, as long as I'm doing what you guys tell me to do, I know it's going to work out in the end, right? If it takes 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 months, but I know that I'm on the right track and I'm not wasting more time trying to talk to brokers, then I don't care because I know I'm going to get out of it. So I think I just said it because I'm in the industry. I know things can go crazy wrong out of nowhere, but I think barring anything like that, I know it's going to work.
Okay. I know real estate market can be unpredictable. What is predictable is your actions and you showing up. Are you willing to show up and put the work in this program if we bring you in and there is alignment?
Oh yeah.
Why? Why?
Well, because I definitely, like I said, I don't want to stay as a realtor any longer than I have to. And the way to get out of that is to put more time, energy with the right mentorship into investing. And and I want to work with you guys.
So where do you want to go from here?
Beautiful, but I still want a little bit more pain. So the only other thing that I would want to transition into from now, and I would probably phrase it like this. Okay, that's clear. I'm definitely clear. You know, you want to work with us. You know we can help you. You've seen that we've helped other people. You know that what you're doing is never going to get you the freedom you want. You'll just keep hitting this brick wall. I'm clear on all of that. One other thing that we haven't covered that I do want to know, I am curious about is you've wanted this freedom for so long, and not only have you wanted the freedom, and this is masterful sales here, guys. Not only have you wanted the freedom, that's level one pain point, you expected to get the freedom. That's the deeper pain point. His
Mm-hmm.
real pain is not that he wanted freedom. His real pain is that he expected to get the freedom. Can you understand the difference between those two things, guys? I would like to date the woman of my dreams versus I was dating the woman of my dreams and I thought she was the one, and then we broke up.
Mm-hmm.
They are not the same fucking pain points. They are radically different pain points. To have hope, to have belief, and to have it shattered is a completely different reality to I wanted this thing and I would like this thing. Didn't know if it's going to happen, wasn't necessarily happening, maybe could have happened, might have happened. I wanted it. That's very different to I thought what I was doing was going to give me the freedom and I was wrong. Okay, so anyway, going back to the point. You wanted the freedom, you wanted the autonomy, and more importantly, you expected to have that freedom as a real estate agent. Having that sudden realization that what you thought was going to get you what you wanted and realizing it didn't and actually never will. And then having to live that way, one piece of data I've got missing here is how long has it been since that realization I would have needed that? Let's say it was 2 years. Living with that realization for the last 2 years that what you thought you were going to achieve and receive wasn't ever going to happen. What impact has that had on you for the last 2 years living with that realization? And I would pull out that pain, get a few data points, get a few specifics, and then bang, I can pull them out of the discovery. Because in general, you want to pull someone out of the discovery where there's this climax between clarity and ownership, and you know what the solution is, and they're committed to it. But there's also this ramming together of the pain because it's the combination of I'm so fucked off with my current situation and I know what to do about it and I'm committed to doing it and I'm going to do it right now. When you combine those two things, that's when you pull someone out of the discovery. Whereas what we've done at the end part of your version of the discovery, Ricky, is we've kind of left the pain at the front of the discovery. And we've
Mm.
kind of like lost the pain that was at the front and we've now got into this like second half of the call, which is very logical. And that's great. We need both. But the end of the call has to be a combination of those two things. So I would like wrap it up with a little bit more pain and then pull him out of the discovery. Is that clear?
It is clear.
Okay.
I don't know how to ask that next question to get that.
So I would just do it as a recap, which is clear on, why you want to do this, that you're
Mm.
never going to get there with this, clear on your commitment, clear that you believe we can get you there, clear that the only certainty you have, the only consistency is what you do. The markets aren't, ever going to be, predictable. What I'm not clear on that we didn't really get into is, and then ask something similar to the question that I asked as far as living with this new realization that the freedom you thought you were going to get as a real estate agent, you're never going to get. What's that been doing to you for the last blank period of time? Okay.
Okay.
Something like that. And then just see where it goes.
So, Brian, I'm clear on your certainty coming into this program, working with us. I'm also really clear on your specific goals and the challenges that you're having hitting a brick wall. What I'm not clear on is you expected some freedom doing the real estate agent side of things. I guess what impact has that lack of freedom had on you not actually having that freedom?
It's not the lack of the freedom. That's what I was saying about level one pain versus level two. It's not what impact has the lack of
Right.
freedom had. It's
The
what
Mm.
expectancy.
impact has realizing that the hope you had that you were going to get that has been a hope that you've realized is never going to happen. Because,
Mm.
when someone doesn't have something, but they have hope that it's around the corner, it's coming one day, they can rationalize. When someone faces reality is when they can no longer rationalize, which, by the way, is why Brian turned up to the sales call, because he could no longer rationalize anymore. If he could keep saying, I'm going to get to freedom as a real estate agent, not yet, not today, not this month, not this year, but someday, he wouldn't have booked in a sales call. He finally decided to book in a sales call when the rationalizing was gone. And then we could also add another question into this discovery, which is, you had realized that for 2 years. Was there a signature moment in the last few days, few weeks, month, where even though you'd realized this for 2 years, you now are actually taking action on creating the path that will get you that freedom? Because in this context, if it was 2 years, that's actually a red flag, because it's like, well, you've known for 2 years that what you're doing is not going to get you the freedom, but you're only now reaching out. Now, he could say, yeah, but I thought if I call the brokers myself, I could figure it out. Fair enough. But okay, what was the turning point where the combination between realizing calling the brokers yourself wasn't going to work and a combination of a personal pain point reaching a climax, those two things combined, you realized now I need to reach out for outside help and I need to take action on it. Does that make sense? One of the big differences between selling with a script and making no fucking money and selling scriptless and building the life of your dreams is this understanding, guys. With a script, the concept of a script is that each thing that you need to get in a sales call is one thing. So you ask a question, you get the one thing. Then you ask another question, you get the next one thing. Then you ask another question, you get the next one thing that you need. Real conversation and real selling and real transformation, guys, is where things collide. It's the difference between a human being only able to see in 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions versus someone being able to see in 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions. There is another whole fucking dimension when you are a master salesperson. And that's why you make so much more money, which is, I'm not just seeing that this thing happened and then this thing happened and then this thing happened and then this thing happened. I'm seeing how this thing collided with this thing and then this thing and this thing and this thing collided all together. And then this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing all collided together. And it's when you can see how things collide together, that's when you can really unlock the highest level of selling. So with Brian, it's in this period of the call, it's the collision between he'd called enough brokers to realize that this brick wall of him calling the brokers was never going to get broken, him doing it himself. Fine, but if he was living a beautiful life, would that matter? No. Okay, I'm never going to get to a different lifestyle calling brokers, but my life's fine right now. It's the combination between I'm calling the brokers and that's not going to work. Plus, he probably had some type of blow up with his partner, with his children, with himself, where he just fucking threw his shit across his desk or whatever. And he was fed up of his life. And it was the combination between the life I'm living is not the life I want to live. And the way I'm trying to fix that is never going to get me there. And when I collide those two things together, bang, I'm on a sales call. I need to do something about it. And I'm going to do something about it. And so the difference between master salespeople and not is they just can't see 3 dimensions all at the same time. Is this clear, guys? I know, hopefully this is clear. Okay. All right. So go from there, Ricky.
So Brian, I'm pretty clear on your certainty in us getting to where you want to go with creative financing and doing your first deal. I'm also very clear on your certainty to show up. What I'm not clear on is you've been in real estate for the past 1 year, expecting freedom, and now you're on this call. Did something happen where you're not expecting that freedom anymore?
Well, I mean, I wasn't expecting the freedom anymore from real estate, and that's what made me realize that was so my corporate job, I was making like 250K a year. Then I got into real estate to sell
Like
houses.
even in this, I can tell the question wasn't perfect because
Yeah.
Brian's shaking in his chair. So notice how many different ways there are to tell when your question landed.
Yeah.
Brian's shaking his leg, which means his chair's shaking, which means, man, he's just making up an answer to a question that didn't really mean anything. And
Damn,
I'm
that's
only
some
sharing that
5D.
with you guys so you can see how deeply I can spot when I'm on track. I'm not even listening to what Brian's saying. I'm like, he's shaking in his chair, so he's not concentrating. He's not really answering the question. Otherwise, he'd be like, shit, I'm, like a stone, when they say like Medusa, where you look at Medusa and you turn to stone, like, I can't fucking move. I'm just answering this question.
I felt
Even
that.
Brian playing as a role play prospect, I'm like, the question didn't land. That's why he's like bobbing in his chair. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
5D right there.
I think I'm having trouble with the second part of asking that question of
No worries. Do you want me to give you an
expectation of,
example?
yes, please.
Sure. No problem. So we would do a little recap. So you say, okay, I'm clear on everything so far.
Yeah.
You don't have freedom. You don't have autonomy. The big issue was that you thought you were going to get there as a real estate agent. You realized that you're not going to get there as a real estate agent. So you wanted to get into investing where you could build systems and you could actually build, an income where you're less involved, which would give you the freedom, give you the autonomy, which is what you want. You've tried calling the brokers, calling the lenders. You've done that for months now. You've called, more than enough people to be rejected every single time and be told no, to realize that what you're doing isn't going to ever get you there. You've seen enough from us, so you know that what we do can get you the results. You've seen we've got those results for other people. So I'm clear on all of that. What I'm not 100% clear on, as far as kind of like a why now type of thing, is when did you first have the realization that what you were doing wasn't going to get you the freedom you wanted? Answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the real estate agent stuff, I knew that that wasn't going to pan out just with the time involvement. But once I realized that, I started looking into investing.
So
And
my first question is, when did you have that first realization?
the first one, like with being a
Yeah.
realtor and not and knowing that that wasn't going to work out.
Well, not going to get you the freedom you want.
Oh, well, I finished my
Sorry, before
first.
before
Yeah.
you answer, notice what I'm doing there, guys. Even when the prospect goes into vague language, I remind them, let's not be vague here. It's not wasn't going to work out. Well, I mean, wasn't going to give you the freedom you want. I'm tying the prospect down.
Hmm.
Every time the prospect tries to go into this disassociation, vagueness, lack of clarity, I'm like, hang on, I know what you're talking about. If you want to talk about something that's too vague, I'm going to hold you back down to the specificity.
Yeah.
This is what it means to hold the prospect's feet to the fire. You do not let them budge, and it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of care. Okay, sorry, keep going, Brian.
Yeah. Well, I finished my first year in real estate as an agent, I think 3 months ago. And I had enough data to look back and go, geez, I made probably half of what I made in my corporate salary. And I felt like I worked 50% more. So that's not going to get me where I want to go. And that's when I started looking into investing, doing the whole thing with calling all these brokers and getting nowhere.
Okay, so it was 3 months ago that you had the realization that as an agent isn't going to be the vehicle to get
Yeah,
you the freedom and the life you want. Then
100%.
you've been calling all these agents, and you've been doing that, if I got this correct, for 3 months ever
Yeah,
since then.
that's right.
Okay. You realized that that wasn't going to work because you just keep hitting a wall and you keep getting rejected. What was the moment of yet another rejection where there was maybe some type of collision between the rejection, maybe something that was going on in your personal life at the same time, where you decided, I need to reach out for outside help? What was that moment? Was there something that happened there, if that makes sense?
100%. Yeah, it was literally this last weekend.
And
I,
why? Sorry, why are you shaking in your chair?
well, because I don't like thinking about it, because it was last weekend. I literally, it was my daughter's birthday, but I had 5 showings on Saturday for my buyer clients. And because I quit my corporate job, my wife doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
I had to show those houses. So I completely missed her birthday and got home at like 8 o'clock at night. And it was that moment where I was in my car. I literally like punched the dashboard. I'm like, I need to like get out of this. This is ridiculous. So yeah,
What happened with your daughter on that day?
I'm not sure. I mean, she was clearly upset. I saw her on Sunday because she went to bed pretty early, and she was kind of like frowning and looking away. But we've talked it over, and I told her like, look, I'm gonna make some changes with work, and that's never gonna happen again. And that's why I think I booked a call literally on Sunday, because that was when I made that decision.
So you made your daughter a promise that you'll make a change.
Yep, 100%.
Have you ever broken a promise to your daughter?
No.
Are you going to start now?
Yep. Oh no, no, I'm not gonna start. No way.
What
No.
about your wife? What did your wife say about that situation?
She understood, because it's always been like this. She's never worked in our marriage, and she understands what it takes to make that possible with all of our kids and everything. So she understood, but she's like, you really upset our daughter, and I know that you've been looking into that investing thing, and I just want you to do what you think is going to be the best decision to make it so you don't have to give up our whole weekend anymore.
Do you think the best decision would be to put it off another day,
Hell no.
taking an action that would get
No.
you to the
No, I would have booked this
decision?
call on Monday if there were any slots open.
Can you feel that energy, guys? That's when you pull someone out of the
Yeah.
discovery. Whereas where we were before, which is why feeling wise, I'm like, you can't pull this guy out of the discovery back then. This is a very different feeling. This is a
Mm,
feeling of like, you know that I get you, I know that I get you, and you know that I know that I get you. Like there's nothing left to cover on this call. And notice like some of the questions I asked. Where the fuck are you going to get those on a script? So you made a promise to your daughter. Yes. Have you ever broken a promise to your daughter? No. Are you going to start now? No. Like, where are you going to come up with those questions, guys, unless you're listening? Because they are completely contextual. Emil did this. He posted about it the other day, where the guy had said something about his father passed away and he made some type of promise to his father. And Emil, basically brought that conversation up with the questions he asked. You're never going to get that on a script, guys. But the questions will just come to you logically if you just slow down and you're tuned in. It came step by step. So Brian told me what he did. He told his daughter, I'm going to make a change. So I just repeated that back in slightly more intense language, which is, you made her a promise. Yes. Have you done that before? Or have you broken a promise before? No. Are you going to break a promise now to your daughter? No. Then I had to bring in the wife because she's important. It's his wife. What was your wife's, thoughts on this situation? What happened there? Well, she was understanding. Now, if Brian had just stayed on the line of she was understanding, I would have challenged that. I would have been like, well, how understanding do you think your wife's going to be, or do you think she's going to be understanding if you miss another important event, either for her or for your daughter? Well, actually, I think her understanding level would quickly decline. The fact that I didn't say anything and Brian, basically said, but I need to do something, means that there's no conflict to Brian's decision of like, I know I need to do something, but actually maybe I don't because my wife doesn't care. It was, I know I need to do something. And despite my wife being understanding, I still need to do something. So because
yeah.
of that dynamic, it's like, well, I don't really need to challenge him on his, you know, wife being so understanding that he therefore wouldn't need to do something. Okay. So that's it, folks. That would be the end of a full discovery. We've covered the opening, getting straight to the pain. Ricky had a humongous transformation and did everything right as we were going through the coaching in the first, let's call it 80% of the call. And then that final bit that you need to do on the end is just making sure you bring it back to a deep conversation and feeling that this is the moment to pull someone out of the discovery. And the more you do it, guys, you'll feel it. It just becomes a
Yeah.
fingertip feel where you can just feel this is it. We've had that conversation now. Okay. All right, folks. We're gonna do some takeaways.
Yeah. If I had to just think about the number one, well, there's two things that really stood out. Number one was just being authentic. And that's, if you keep that in your mind the whole time you're on the call, it's just makes this so easy. The other thing was when we talked about the three phases of be a real human, empathize, and then challenge. I was rereading 12 Rules of Life from Jordan Peterson, and I had this really weird. I've read it before, but something jumped out at me when I was reading the chapter where he talks about your kids and parenting. And he gave the example of it's not bad if you have to like basically hit your kid because they're about to run in front of a car. And I was like, that's exactly what we're doing on these calls because you're challenging them so that they don't make their situation worse.
100%.
So that's all I want to say.
Ricky?
Yeah. I want to share this with everyone. I wrote down love, powerful, and I was like flexing, like draw like a little stick figure.
There you go.
And it's something where before I would squire in a way. I was too soft. I was too, bro to bro. And at one point, in the past 2 months, I swung it too far where I was just stone. And now trying to recalibrate into the middle and being more authentic because I know that in my personal life, I'm very personable and it's very uncomfortable to challenge. But one thing that I've continued to write, and it's on my pre-call checklist, is challenging from a place of love. And
Exactly.
that's going to be the biggest thing for me to take away. That and also the moment when we were recapping and just being flexible to just kind of take it wherever you need to go, as opposed to, oh shoot, like let me just move forward and go for the close right now because, that's what we're trained to do as closers. So that was the biggest two takeaways.
Huge, Ricky. It was incredible to watch the transformation of you in real time. So kudos to you for number one, stepping up. Number two, being in a situation in front of everyone where it can be nerve wracking. And number three, taking the feedback so well. So huge
I
kudos to you.
will I will share this too. I was very like I was shaking, like my
Why are
handwriting
you
is
shaking? No, just kidding. Why are
like
you
when I
shaking in your
like the
chair?
even the first 30 minutes my handwriting was just so bad because I was like couldn't write the notes. But yeah, it's part
Wow.
of the process.
And that's really important because I'm sure everyone in the chat can agree that we could see the transformation in you. And when you transform as a person, obviously your close rate and your results and your income is going to change. But imagine for all of you, if Ricky had said, I'm too nervous, like I can't do it, or I don't want to do it, or I'm not going to be nervous, and let his nervousness keep him from getting this feedback that we all saw in real time, how transformational it was. All of us get nervous, guys. All of us can be like, oh, I don't really want to role play. It might go on YouTube. It's a bit uncomfortable. Well, then you'll probably just stay at your current income, guys. And equally, if you're like, I'll role play when I'm less nervous, or I'll role play when I'm no longer nervous. Well, number one, you'll probably never get to a point where you're not nervous at all because you're in the presence of a mentor. I'm nervous every single day around because I know the level of standard that he operates at is way above mine. And therefore, that's a judgment, not a judgment in the sense we talk about on a sales call of he's judging me as like looking down on me, but a judge being there's a higher version of what I'm capable of that I'm comparing my current version to. And there's a gap, which means it's always uncomfortable. Okay. The second thing is imagine how much money you're going to flush down the toilet whilst you wait for your nerves to get less and less and less. You could get the coaching now and go from 10K a month up to 20K a month, or you could wait 4 months until you're less nervous. And that would have cost you $40,000 in commissions to stay at 10K for the next 4 months until you get the coaching, as opposed to, I'm just going to do it while I'm as nervous as I am. Okay. So, what is it costing you to delay your decisions, telling yourself, rationalizing, I'll do it when I'm less nervous? The sooner you step towards your nerves and the things that make you uncomfortable, the quicker you'll grow. So, again, Ricky, huge kudos to you.
My takeaway I put down because Ricky basically said the same thing. But I originally in sales, I started out like being way too empathetic, and it would just get to the point in the conversation where I was just like a shoulder to cry on,
Yeah.
and it turned into like I couldn't actually pull out like a leadership frame, and the prospect just got apathetic and didn't take any action, and it was just a pity fest. And then recently, I've totally like I don't know what it is. I'm not really connecting with people like almost feeling like I'm just like on a Zoom call, like just on a screen with some person. Like I'm not actually like really connecting with a human being, and I'm like doing everything kind of tactically right, but as I get into like where I need to challenge them, I'm just at the part in the conversation where I'm like, I got to challenge them now. And I'm challenging them with my words, but I didn't connect with them like on an empathetic level and actually feel their pain. And so when I go to challenge them, they can't really sense that I'm doing it from a place of love, even though I'm telling myself, I'm like, well, I'm doing this because I care about them, but I'm not really feeling their pain. I'm just doing it because I feel like I have to because it's a sales call. And if I don't challenge them, then we're not going to get anywhere or they're not going to take any action. It's all about like, how can I run the sales call so that they take action at the end? And I'm like human being, but no empathy, but I also challenge them and I just cut that middle part out. And so I've been trying to take it because it was at one end of the pendulum to over here. And I've been trying to balance it because I'm almost like afraid to empathize with them, like, or afraid to like be emotional in the conversation because I almost don't really feel that trust in myself to be able to pull out of that and like get out of like a empathetic state. I don't know. Does that make sense though? I mean,
Total sense.
I shouldn't be afraid of being empathetic. I just don't want to get to the point in the conversation where they, I don't know. I'm probably making it way harder than it needs to be now that I'm explaining it out loud.
I get you. The thing that you need to understand is that the two, the place that these two things connect, where they both come from, is service. You cannot have service without empathy. You also cannot have service without challenging. And so when you're saying, I'm nervous to get too much into empathy because then I won't close them, you have to realize that part of service is to empathize with someone. But then the other part of service is to challenge them. So instead of worrying about, am I empathizing? Am I challenging? Is there too much of this or not enough of this or too much of this and not enough of this? Just view it from a single lens, which is service.
Mm-hmm.
Service means you're connecting with someone, you care about them, but also connect with them and care about them, that you're
Mm-hmm.
getting them to take an action that will actually serve them and hoping that you can keep them from taking an action that would not serve them. And so just focusing on this being your main driver. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm gonna feel like a bit of an asshole for saying this because this kind of does feel weird, but I almost feel like that bit I said about it just being a Zoom call. I almost I feel like I'm not caring enough
Mm-hmm.
about them. I don't know what it is. I feel like I've been trying so hard over the last week to like try to care about people more, like try to be more loving. And it's like I don't know if it's just like a decision like I need to make like I don't know. I'm kind of
So
I
one,
guess I'm kind of
this
conflicted with
this might,
this.
I got you. This might land, it might not. Let me know after, Jay. Another place that people get stuck on, especially as closers, with caring, is that they feel that the relationship between caring and money are reverses, meaning, well, if I care more about people, then I can't be focused on the fact that I want to get rich because that's focusing on me, and vice versa. Whereas what you have to realize is that you can absolutely focus on the fact that you want to make more money. You just have to realize that to make more money, you have to care more about more people. That's how you make money. And so where a lot of closers get stuck on is this like relationship between these two things. They're like, should I want money and be selfish, or should I focus on being a fucking Buddha and caring about everyone? It's like they're the same thing, guys. Your current income level, 10K a month, 20K a month, whatever it is based on where you are on the graph of caring about people. 10K a month, your level of care about people is pretty low. 100K a month, your level of caring about people is much, much higher. And that caring comes from empathizing with people, truly connecting with them, and challenging people. Does that make sense? So the question you
Yeah,
have to
but
ask yourself sometimes, Jay, is not necessarily what do I do to care more, or what should I do to care more about other people? What about, do you want to get richer? If you
That's why I
actually
feel
do
like
want to get richer, then care more about people. Yeah, go ahead.
that's why I feel like I'm like after last month, I'm like, well, I don't want to stay at 10K a month. And so I'm like, I need to like I feel like I feel like I'm doing the actions or like going through the process of like, you know, I'll meditate in the morning so that I can be present, so that I can make more money. But it's the same thing on like the call, like when I'm with the prospect, like I'm like trying to care for them so that I can make money in this call. And so, like I feel like I'm detached tactically, but it's still yeah. And I feel like this has been my issue is I'm just trying.
Well, what's that telling you? So we'll cover this in two different ways. You said, first of all, I'm doing the process, I'm doing the actions. Yes, you have to do the process and you have to do the actions from the right intention. If you have the wrong intention, which is what I'm going to get to here in a minute here, and from the wrong intention, you're doing the process and you're doing the actions, people are going to feel that you're lacking the right intention. And you're also going to feel it. You're not going to feel very comfortable that you're lacking the right intention. How do I know you're lacking the right intention? Because if you're trying to do something, it means that you're not actually that person. In other words, if you are a caring, empathetic leader, then you don't have to try because you are that person.
Mhm.
So the fact that you're like, I'm trying to be that person means you're not that person. Instead, actually choose to be that person that actually cares about people, which is then having the right intention. And then you will continue to do the process and it will actually work. And you will no longer feel like you're trying because you simply are that person. Now, that sounds very simple. It's like, well, what do I actually do? It is a conscious decision every day when you wake up to choose to be a different identity. And it starts with as small little things that seem so unrelated. Most of you probably didn't see this, but about a week and a half ago, I posted something on my Instagram story, which was a conversation that Jeremy had had with me. And the conversation, to cut out some of the personal details for Jeremy, was basically just, I want to be a different version of myself, and the version of myself that I want to be is someone that's more lighthearted. How do I do that? And I said to him, well, it starts with just the simplest behaviors that are things that you choose to do on a daily basis when the opportunities come up. Here's an example. And I posted it on my Instagram story. And where I was living before, I used to go every morning for my morning swim. And there was these ducks, this like pack of ducks, like 5 ducks that used to live and stay all the time at the water where I used to swim. And I just decided to go to the shop and to always have with me little biscuits. And I would crunch up the biscuits and just feed the ducks. And for a lot of you, it's like, how's that connected to sales? Well, it's because if I actually am the person that cares, that's what that person would do. You see a group of ducks every freaking morning where you go every day. And it's kind of like, if it was a human being, you wouldn't go there every morning and not say hello to someone. If they're there every single morning, you'd always just say hello. Or, for example, where I used to swim, there would be like these elderly ladies or elderly gentlemen, and they would always have like a flask with like hot drink or cocoa or whatever. Coffee. And they would always be like, do you want a coffee? Do you want a hot drink? And that's just being a caring person. And so when these ducks would be there every day, I would just feed the ducks. And that's something that I've consciously tried to do over the last 4 years since I got into high ticket sales, was to be, just like you said, Jay, naturally someone that's more in service. And so it comes from day to day to day, starting to live your life in a way that is how someone would live if they're more empathetic, but they're also more challenging. And it's
Mhm.
just a decision day to day. It's not just on a sales call. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah. So how can I maybe I don't want to have this be like a tactical question, but the bit about feeding the ducks, like what can I um everything in my day-to-day routine is about servicing myself.
But is it?
And
Because if you actually wanted to serve yourself, would you be the person that's trying to follow a process, not from the right intention, knowing that it's going to make you less money? This is the other thing, and I knew where you were going to go, is self. versus others, they're both the same thing, guys. Meaning, when we say tactically, what should I do to be more of service? Well, ask yourself, where in my life, day to day, am I not being of service? And I'm not just
Mm.
referring to being of service to other people. Where in your life are you not being of service to yourself? For example, simple example, if you're the type of person that wakes up in the morning, gets out of bed, and doesn't make your bed, well, is that being of service to yourself? Is that caring about the highest version of yourself, that you just get out of bed and you don't just tidy your room? No. So it's not
Okay.
just other people, it's where in your life, everywhere, are you not being of service to people, and other people and yourself are the same reflection of the same being.
Mhm. Okay, that makes total sense. It's like that chapter in 12 Rules for Life, like Brian just said, like take care of yourself as somebody, as if you're somebody you're responsible for helping.
Exactly. And
I
when
gotta
you
read that
start taking
chapter.
care of
This is very good.
yourself, when you start taking care of yourself as someone that you should be responsible for, because you've now changed the way that you, and this is a little bit of a head fuck here, guys, the way that you look at yourself, the way that you look at other people changes. If you always look at yourself as someone that doesn't really need much care and shouldn't be living by higher standards, then because that's the way you look at yourself, that's also the way you're going to look at other people. When you look at yourself differently, you look at others differently. That's why I started to dress a little bit better, because I realized, like, I'm probably not looking at myself as someone that should dress a little bit nicer. Therefore, there's probably a gap in how I'm looking at other people. What would be the next level, the next higher version of you as far as how you treat yourself and how you treat other people? And just look for those gaps and start filling them in.
Yeah, like maybe not wear sweatpants while I'm taking a sales call.
Exactly.
Like change my top. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
It can be anything.
Um,
It can be feeding the ducks, can be dressing differently, can be getting up earlier. Like, I felt a massive shift for myself when I started waking up even earlier where I was living before. I was getting up at 4:45, and I was like, wow, I feel a completely different view of myself. When you start viewing yourself differently, you'll start viewing other people differently. And it can be anything. You just have to look for you personally, get a piece of paper over the rest of the day, over the weekend, and ask yourself, where am I looking at myself as a lower version of myself? And where am I looking at other people as a lower version of other people? And just start one by one, knocking off a few of those things on the list.
I'm so glad I got up here. This is so good. Thank you so much, Josh.
It's
Um,
always a
I
pleasure.
actually feel very clear on this.
Beautiful. Glad to hear it. All right, folks, that is us for today. We will now roll into the cool reviews. So I'll cut the recording here on this, and then we'll jump into a couple of hours of normal trading. All right, so there you have it. Another high ticket sales cool role play. We're actually going to jump into further training now inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. We're going to jump into cool reviews. Those are the things that you saw in that call review that likely are missing in your calls as a closer for yourself. You aren't showing up as the version of a closer that we started to build inside Ricky. If you're not making the money that you truly want to be making, how much longer are you going to keep being the version of you that you are right now that's going to guarantee that you stay at your current income? The version of you that procrastinates, the version of you that sits on the outside of the mastermind when you know the thing that will take you to the next level is to get on the inside. You can't jump into this next 2.5 hours of training because you're not on the inside of the mastermind. This is training that is exclusively for members inside. If you want to go to the next level, you need training, you need support, you need mentorship, and you also need a community. So as I said, how much longer are you going to keep putting off the action that you know will take you to the next level? How much longer are you going to not look yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself and say you're just paying an opportunity cost to stay on the outside of the mastermind instead of getting on the inside? If you don't like spending money that you don't need to be spending, then click the link below the video, join, and I'll see you on the inside.